Are you ready to elevate your fantasy team? Here is Joey the Tooth with your IDP update. If it's not IDP, it's not fantasy football.
All right, welcome back to the IDP update. This is episode 6, where we talk about the Week 5 massacre. Anybody who just started playing IDP this year, I would like to thoroughly apologize. It has been horrendous. The lack of preseason has shown to just be completely detrimental to all NFL players. The amount of injuries that have happened this year have just been unbelievable. Knee injuries, soft tissue injuries. I mean, those reps have proven, if not before, but this year, to be incredibly significant for getting these guys in game shape. So anybody who wants to complain about preseason games or we should extend the season, think again. The reps need to happen. They need those 4 games just because they don't play full games in those 4 games. They get themselves into shape. They see what they have in their roster. Let's not complain about it. Let's let these guys play a full season because, by gosh, the amount of injuries that have happened this year, it's really making people work. It's really making people work. I have seen more trades this year because of injuries. I've seen deep waiver action. So definitely pay attention to the injury report that Zach Magley's been putting out. Pay attention to the waiver wire report that K-Belt's been putting out. And then just the weekly content, like me and Johnny the Greek. Johnny's doing a quarterback streaming article. I do a D-line streaming article. So, I mean, with the injuries, you're going to have to stream. So just pay attention. Go sign up for IDP, guys. Become a subscriber. There's so much information there that can help you win. And let us help you because, trust me, it's been tough on us too. It's been real tough. So we're going to go over some, like our normal deal. We're going to go over the injury report from week 5. We're going to talk about who's hot, who's not, and then we're going to hit the waivers. And we'll get right to it as soon as we go over this quick commercial break. All right, I'll be right back.
The injury report.
All right, welcome back to the IDP update. And we're going to get started with the injury report. All right, we've had a couple of big injuries this week. A guy who I own a lot of, Chandler Jones. I play a lot of sleeper leagues, and he's listed as a DL. And though he wasn't having his normal season, he tore his bicep in week 5, and he is done for the year. I'll talk about in a little bit about who his potential replacements are, but Chandler Jones out for the season, torn bicep. That's a big hit. Jordan Fuller, the rookie who supplanted Taylor Rapp and put him back to the bench. He has just gone on IR. I don't believe it's season ending, but I know he's on IR. So anybody who held on to Taylor Rapp, fire him up, man. That position seems to be racking up the tackle. So Rapp's going to be back to his same position from last year. So sucks for Jordan Fuller managers, but anybody who has Taylor Rapp on their roster is pretty pumped. Quan Alexander, he's been playing pretty good this year. I was hoping for a little more out of him, but I mean, he's definitely getting it done, but he won't be getting it done for a while. They just said didn't see it happen on Sunday, but Monday night, coach said that Quan Alexander may have suffered a high ankle sprain, so he could be out for a couple weeks. So any of you Dre Greenlaw owners, anybody who held on to him, even though he was stuck to Sam duties, go ahead and fire up Greenlaw because he's going to be playing next to Fred Warner. Brian Burns, he went into concussion protocol, so he's got to go through all the steps to make sure he's available for this weekend. Same deal with Ronnie Harrison. Ronnie Harrison owners, including myself, so frustrated. So frustrated this year. He got traded to the Browns, and we all thought he would be starting right away. He was playing like 11% of the team's snaps, and he finally got to start this weekend with Carl Joseph out. And he came up big. He had 2 tackles, 2 passes defended, and he had a pick 6 first game. But then he got concussed. So he's got to go through concussion protocol in order to play again, and it could put him back to a bench role if Carl Joseph comes back. I don't know. Personally, I think it'd be a great idea to get Harrison on because obviously his coverage skills can be very vital to that team's secondary. Sam Hubbard, he had an elbow injury. He didn't return to the game. Carl Lawson owners will be loving this because he'll get a nice full snap share if Sam Hubbard isn't ready to go, but that's definitely an injury to monitor. Takaris McKinley, he's been having a decent year, better probably than any season he's had yet, but he suffered a groin injury and couldn't finish the game in week 5, so that's going to be something you want to pay attention to. His status for this week, it's unknown, but it's just something you want to pay attention to. Lorenzo Carter, he was having a great year for the Giants. Unfortunately, many places have him listed as a linebacker. Some have him as a DL or edge. But either way, he was having a good year. Looks like he suffered an Achilles injury, most likely a torn Achilles. He's going to be done for the season. So no more Lorenzo Carter. Danico Autry left week 5 with an ankle injury. He's been kind of one of those cheat code kind of guys. He's listed as a defensive tackle most places, but he's been playing a lot of end for the Colts. So he's one of the guys that switches back and forth along the line. So he's been a nice asset for IDP managers, but his status is unknown. So just keep an eye on it. If he plays, fire him up. If not, there's going to be plenty you can stream. Pay attention to the article I write. Tristan Hill, he was a guy who was one of my streamers last week, but he unfortunately went down with a knee injury after 1 tackle. So I don't know the severity of the injury, but he wasn't able to finish the game. So it's something you want to monitor. Most likely he's going to be on the waiver wire anyway, but if you are a Tristan Hill owner, be vigilant about a knee injury. And lastly, LaMarcus Joyner again is popping back up on the report with a hamstring injury. So Eric Harris owners, he plays good when he's in. I mean, I think the Raiders should really play him. I don't know, man. Put him next to Abrams, and I think that's actually a pretty good duo. So Joyner out, Harris in, and that although there's a lot of big injuries, it's not super extensive, but again, it's more than we've seen in seasons past. So that's it for the injury report. Next, we're going to move on to who's hot and who's not.
Who's hot? Who's not?
Let's start with the hot side. So Micah Kaiser wasn't able to go this week. Troy Reeder, he was a guy I was kind of hoping would hold on to a role this year because he played pretty well at the end of last season. I own him, I think, in like 9 leagues. Started him in only 1. But he unfortunately hasn't been getting much playing time. But this week he did, and he came through in a huge way. To the tune of 11 tackles, 8 solo, 3 tackles for a loss, and 3 sacks. Huge game. He's probably the IDP MVP of the week and top scorer. I don't think there's a probably about it. I think it's a guarantee. But he's a guy you want to monitor on waivers. I mean, if Kaiser can't go, again, fire Reeder right up. Even if Kaiser can go, I think Reeder, based off how he finished last season, how he played this game, he had to have garnered some more looks. I mean, granted, it was against Washington, but still, he's he seems to produce well when on the field. So I think it's something that the Rams need to look into instead of running just a single linebacker pretty much most of the time. Patrick Queen stayed hot. He had 9 tackles, 6 solo, 1 tackle for a loss, a sack, a forced fumble, and 2 fumble recoveries. I was a little down on Queen to start the year. I was worried about his play strength. He's proven me 100% wrong. I still had him as my LB1, but I was worried about reaching for him. Man, the kid is legitimate. He fits that Ravens scheme perfectly, and he's all over the field. So Patrick Queen with another excellent game. Aaron Donald. Oof. Aaron Donald owners, they've been a little annoyed this year. I think he only had a sack and a half before this game, maybe 2. Well, you got what you wanted. 4 tackles for a loss, 4 sacks, and a forced fumble. I mean, coming from Aaron Donald, we honestly shouldn't be surprised, but that's still a huge game. So Aaron Donald owners were excited. One of my pickups, my waiver wire pickups, was Bobby Okereke. He had himself a great game. He had 10 tackles, 8 solo, a pass defended, and an interception. And I think next to Darius Leonard, it's going to be Okereke for the rest of the season. I think Anthony Walker has, as good as he is tackling and in run defense, his coverage skills are nowhere near Okereke's. I mean, they're not terrible, but Okereke's going to be that guy. I think he's going to fill in. He has been filling in all season. I think he just kind of proved it in this game. Let's see. Steven Nelson, cornerback for the Steelers. He had a big game. He had 6 tackles, 5 solo, 2 passes defended, and 2 interceptions. Carson Wentz, stop throwing interceptions. But Steven Nelson, good job. You played well this week. You garnered yourself a Who's Hot ticket. Another guy I've been big on. I own him in a couple of leagues now. I got him off of waivers. Eric Wilson. Eric Wilson, he had another huge game. He didn't have the enormous tackle numbers that he's had the past few weeks, but he had 6 tackles and 4 solo. But he had 2 tackles for a loss, a sack, a pass defended, and an interception. Anthony Barr, say goodbye. I mean, since Wilson's come in and taken over, he's been on fire. And him and Kendricks play next to each other seamlessly. Barr doesn't show up when he's in there. He does have some impact, but Wilson shows up on the stats sheet and in general. He shows up. He's just a great player, and I think it would be in the Vikings' best interest to keep Wilson on the field, even if Barr comes back healthy next year. Avery Williamson looked good. He seems like he's starting to come back to form. He had 8 tackles, 6 solo, 2 passes defended, and an interception. So him roaming in coverage a little bit and just letting Neville Hewitt kind of just get after the ball. It seems like it's going to be a combo that works. Jalen Smith. I was getting annoyed with Jalen Smith a little bit. I mean, he hasn't been bad by any means. He hasn't. But he hasn't put up the numbers like he did last season when Leighton Vander Esch was out. Joe Thomas has been soaking up a lot of tackles, and he still played well this week, but Jalen Smith had 14 tackles, 7 solo, a half a sack, and 3 tackles for a loss. So he was getting behind that line of scrimmage. And I thought that the Cowboys would be a lot more against Daniel Jones and the Giants, but Jalen Smith had a great game. Zach Cunningham, I think his numbers are going to inflate right now with Bernard McKinney out for the season. He finished the game with 10 tackles, 7 solo, 2 tackles for a loss, and a sack. So he's got, I think, a couple of sacks on the year. So that's something he didn't really show his first few years. So that's a nice improvement to his game. I'm going to finish up with 2 more cornerbacks. One we shouldn't be surprised with, Marcus Peters. He's an animal. He's just an animal. He's just vicious. He's a gamer. He had 4 tackles, a tackle for a loss, a sack, a pass defended, a pick, and a forced fumble across the board. Statistics. Marcus Peters, he's one of your best corners. He's a great corner in real life, and he's a great corner for IDP. So, lastly, for the Who's Hot, Let's go Sidney Jones. He's with his new team with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he showed great coverage skills in this game. He only had 3 tackles, but he had 4 passes defended and a pick. So kudos to him. Oh, one more I wanted to say, which was kind of a surprise to me. Cody Barton. So all 3 linebackers for the Seahawks, I believe, played 60. Yeah, he played 68% of snaps. So 68% or more from KJ Wright, Bobby Wagner, and Cody Barton. Barton came up with 14 tackles. So KJ Wright's tackle numbers were down. Bobby Wagner was still high, but KJ Wright looked in coverage. He was in coverage a lot. So I don't know. Is this a trend that's going to keep going? Possibly. So let's keep an eye on Cody Barton. All right, and now we're moving on to our most important segment, the thing that will help you through all the injuries of this year. We're going to move on to the waiver wire.
Waivers.
If you have an open spot or somebody you have no problem getting rid of, grab Troy Reader just in case. He just played so well this weekend that he garners attention. And Kaiser was playing well, but he's injured. And if he's out for any bit of time, Troy Reader is going to be a guy that can go in for your team and just put up huge numbers. You saw he's a volume tackler. He gets into the backfield. And again, granted, it was Washington, so I'm going to take it with a grain of salt. But give Troy Reader a look. Ronnie Harrison, too, he probably, as I was talking in the hot, he probably is on waivers again. I talked to him about him in the injury report. Sorry. He had 2 tackles, 2 passes defended, a pick, and there was a pick 6. He's in concussion protocol, so you might even be able to wait a week to grab him, but I think his coverage skills are going to garner him time in that defense. And, I mean, he's shown that he can produce in the past, and I think Ronnie Harrison is a nice pickup, and he did all that in only 66% of the snaps before he got injured, so I would go ahead and pick up Ronnie Harrison. Duke Riley, surprisingly, starting to show up a little bit in the stat sheets these weeks. And, I mean, it's mainly because the middle of that Eagles defense is absolutely horrendous. Davion Taylor, I believe, is on the PUP list. TJ Edwards just went on IR. So that doesn't leave much. Sean Bradley, Alex Singletary, and Duke Riley. And Duke Riley came in this week. He had 13 tackles, 7 solo, a tackle for a loss, and a forced fumble. And he played 75% of the team snaps. So is Duke Riley going to be a league winner? No, but he could be a nice bye-week filler, and he could even possibly be an LB3 moving forward with the lack of depth on that linebacker group. Let's see. Dalvin Tomlinson, defensive tackle for the Giants. He's had a great year, and it's kind of quiet, but he finished last year really strong. He had a good 2019. So far in 5 games, he's got 19 tackles, 12 solo, 5 tackles for a loss, a sack, 2 passes defended, and 3 QB hits. So he's getting behind the line, and he's averaging almost 4 tackles a game, and how can you ask for much more out of a defensive tackle? So he's not even a streamer anymore. He's a guy that you should have in your lineups, and he's kind of outperforming Dexter Lawrence, the guy that everybody was so high on. It's Tomlinson's the guy. A couple of guys I want to keep watch on. Sounds weird, but Andrew Van Ginkel. So he plays mostly outside linebacker for the Dolphins. It's kind of like that linebacker defensive end role, that hybrid role that their defense runs. So it was a position that Shaq Lawson was playing when he was in, but Shaq Lawson was out this week with an injury, and so he came in and he played 72% of the team snaps. He had 6 tackles, 4 of them solo, a sack, a forced fumble, and a QB hit. It was against the 49ers offensive line, which for some odd reason this year's been in shambles. But at the same time, even when Shaq Lawson was in, he only averaged 23% of the team snaps. It's the first 4 games. And I think he missed a game, actually. So 3 games, he averaged 23% of the team snaps. And each week, it started going up. But he had 8 tackles, a sack and a half, tackle for a loss, and a QB hit. So Van Ginkel's arrow is pointing up and Shaq Lawson's is pointing down. He hasn't had the breakout that most of us were hoping for. Emmanuel Ogbah looks great, so him and Van Ginkel could be the guys moving forward. But I'm not saying go out and grab him right away, but it's a name you should definitely keep your eye on. So put him on a watch list. Another guy you may want to put on the watch list is Dennis Gardeck. So with Chandler Jones going down, you'll have Hassan Reddick's probably going to start on one side. And then the other side is probably going to be Devon Kennard. But he's been out the past 2 weeks with a calf injury. So once Chandler Jones went down this week, Gardeck came in. And granted, he only played 14% of the team snaps. But in those 14% of snaps, he came up with 2 tackles, both for a loss, and 2 sacks. So he obviously has pass rushing ability. Even if he comes in just on pass rushing downs and maybe they keep Hassan Reddick in there for base sets, I mean, he could be a guy that could rotate throughout the year and just be a weekly flyer for maybe some nice sack potential. So it's definitely something you want to monitor with the Cardinals to see who's going to be Chandler Jones' replacement moving forward. Most likely it's going to be Kennard and Reddick, with Gardeck maybe rotating in. But, I mean, who can really be that big on Reddick? I mean, you can't trust him. He's been all over that team's defense, and he just can't hold down a spot in the starting lineup. So just keep an eye on Gardeck. He'll probably float on waivers for another week or two, but if he goes in and he has another big week, you don't want to be the guy that misses out. I want you to keep an eye on Cody Barton too. I'm not saying he's going to be the team's best linebacker moving forward, but he showed that he belongs on this team. And Jordan Brooks, if he keeps playing like this, I'm sorry, man. Unless they get rid of KJ Wright, you're going to be sitting behind Cody Barton for another year. So keep an eye on Cody Barton. His arrow was pointing up as well. So he had 35% of snaps in week 4. This week he had 68%. So they're running that 3 linebacker group a lot more often. So keep an eye on Cody Barton. Gerard Wilson is back, and he played well. He was one of my guys going into this year. Once they traded Ronnie Harrison and they were sitting there with Miles Jack and Joe Schobert, he was the safety to own. I didn't think Josh Jones was going to come in and be the guy we all thought he was 2 years ago for Green Bay. 2 years ago, or actually last year, at the beginning of the season, I made this bold prediction that Josh Jones was going to play a box safety role for the Green Bay Packers, and he was going to have 100 tackles in the season. He didn't have one because they cut him, and he didn't go anywhere. So it's kind of nice to see Jacksonville pick him up, and all he does is tackle. So I mean, he's been averaging close to 6 tackles a game, 7 tackles a game. So if he gets 100 tackles this year, I'm just going to say I was wrong for a season, but I was right on Jones. Take it as you will. But Wilson, he's free. He's a free safety that can tackle. He plays every single snap in that defense. This past week, his first game back from injury, coming off of IR, he had 3 tackles, 2 solo, a pass defended, and a pick. So he's one of my guys. Another guy who plays every single snap that doesn't get any love because of Jeremy Chinn, but he's playing linebacker, is the safety to own, in Carolina. But Justin Burris plays every single snap, and he's playing the strong safety role. He's got 20 tackles on the season. That's 4 a game. It's not a lot, but the 14er solo. He's got 2 tackles for a loss, 2 passes defended, and a pick. He's been playing really well recently, the past 2 games, and I mean, when you're looking at waivers, if you're looking for safeties, you want to find a guy who's playing every single snap, because you don't want to get a guy like I made the recommendation of Marcus Epps after playing 60% of snaps last week. He still had a good snap projection, or he still played a lot of snaps, but I think he had 1 tackle and a pass defended. So if you're looking to grab a safety off the wire, make sure he's a high snap percentage guy. And lastly, for my waiver wire, a guy that we need to keep an eye on, because, well, first, it's going to be Ja'Kai Polite. So he tanked during the draft combine because of off-field issues and issues at the combine, and he dropped in the draft. I think he was considered a first-round talent that dropped, I think, to the 4th. He only played 7% of snaps this week for the Rams, right? And granted, again, it was against Washington, but in those 7% of snaps, he had 3 tackles, 1 for a loss, and a sack. The Rams lost Dante Fowler last year, who was great next to Aaron Donald, and they were stuck with Leonard Floyd and Samson Ebukam. Samson Ebukam. And they just haven't been able to get at the quarterback off the edge. If Polite can live up to his potential, and then put in the fact that he's playing next to Aaron Donald, I mean, he could be a very sneaky play moving forward. And he's a D-end linebacker. So he some leagues have him linebacker. I believe some leagues have him edge. Or some leagues have him D-end. But if you're playing a league that has edge, Polite could be a guy who could end up being the best guy coming off the edge in LA. So, I mean, I'm not saying he's going to win you leagues. I'm not saying he might even do anything past this week. I'm saying keep your eye on him. That's all I'm saying. Keep your eye on him. So that will do it for my Week 5 coverage of the massacre that was Week 5. I needed to go back to the drawing board in quite a few leagues, so I'm going to do that. Make sure you subscribe to IDP, guys. I mean, we have plenty of tools. We have weekly matchup charts that me and IDP do. We have K-Belf, who does the waiver wire report. We have Zach Magley doing his injury report. We have Hollywood, who does Devi content for the team, and he also writes about 17 articles a week, so he's full of content. We have Seahawks Dan, who him and Hollywood are both rankers, and Dan puts out content, a lot of rookie content. Who am I missing? I know I'm missing somebody. Oh, Jesus, I'm sorry, Johnny. We have Johnny the Greek, who writes his monster article every week, his recap, and then he does his rookie streamers. So Johnny's articles are always fire. IDP dude does his weekly rankings, so pay attention to those, and me and him do our charts. God, I know I'm going to be missing somebody. I'm going to feel terrible about it. Just our team's just unbelievable. We have a great site owner and creator in Nate Cheat. Nate is a phenomenal boss, and he's got things rolling with these leagues, with these sites, and it's been phenomenal. So written content, idpguys.org, and dynastyfootballdigest.com. We've partnered with the dynastytradecalculator.com for our IDP values. So you now have an IDP trade calculator mixed with offense. Man, I don't even know. There's more. I know there's more. We'll have our magazines coming out next year. So content's going to get crazy. We're going to have new tools next year, including player projections, and we're going to have a tool that will give you player rankings based off of your scoring. So that will be next year, but it's going to be phenomenal. So follow the Big Three Net, or subscribe to the Big Three Network, subscribe to Writer Digest Network, both on YouTube and any other platform, and you will find all sorts of podcasting information and just great people. So thank you guys. I want to thank the entire group of IDP guys and Dynasty Football Digest and Big Three Network, Writer Digest Network. Thank you, everybody. And I'm humbled for the opportunity to do this, and I can't wait to keep writing for you guys and doing the pod. All right. Thank you, and I will see you next week for the Week 6 recap.
This has been a collaboration between the Big Three Network and the Writer Digest Network. Follow at Big Three Network on Twitter to find more great audio podcasts, and subscribe to the Writer Digest Network on YouTube for tons of league-winning fantasy football video shows.